I mean, it's actually kind of funny. If you think of like what is education, like you're basically downloading data and algorithms into your brain, and it's actually amazingly bad in conventional education because like it shouldn't be like this huge chore.
5 years ago, I dropped out of high school because I hated most of the subjects. I hated learning math, science, history. And 5 years later, now, I'm more interested in learning than ever. I'm interested in philosophy, history, languages, and art. I'm interested in all different sorts of subjects, business, and I want to consume as much information about these subjects as I can. So how did this happen? How was I not interested in class and learning when I was in school? Well, there are a lot of reasons why students like me drop out and years later they rekindle their love for curiosity and learning. And the school itself is at fault and also the student, not in a voluntary kind of way. So let me give you some context to why I was able to rekindle this love for learning and how my curiosity and love for learning was hampered by the educational system. First of all, the teachers. Some of them are so incompetent. I mean, it's a pressure on them because first of all, they have a low income, they're underpaid, and the second, the way they teach might not be they're not to be blamed for the way they teach because maybe the whole system is based around that kind of teaching where the teacher comes, tells you to open your notebook and starts telling you to start reading from this line, and when you're finished the other student should start from where the other student left off. So this kind of memorizing and learning doesn't do much. If you have learned anything from books, you would realize that memorizing doesn't make that information stay in your mind. It's not memorization but a curiosity to learn that subject. So if you don't have any curiosity to learn that, no matter how much you memorize, it's not going to work. So when the students have finished reading, they're told to do this and finally given homework, and then the teacher says, my job's done, I'm going to go home. And some of them are basically bullies. I mean, I've encountered a lot of teachers who, aside from their flimsy teaching methods, which, as I said, might not be their blame 100%, but some of them are crazy and mad. I don't know how the school directors appoint these teachers because, first of all, they have bad tempers. They have a really a bad temper issue, and I don't know what goes on in their house, but when they come to school, they tend to vent their angers on the students. You make a mistake, you're a dumb idiot. Actually, they won't say you're a dumb idiot, but in their own words, they'll discriminate against the students. Or they will say words like, you're worthless, you'll never amount to anything. And I've seen a lot of people confused when I say that teachers could act like that, because maybe they haven't met a teacher that has bullied them or told them something like that. So that kind of a bullying against the students, telling them, why did your parent ever admit you into the school? Because you'll never learn anything. The student realizes that he has made a mistake because the teacher, a figure of authority, has told him that he's worthless, and then his act of making a mistake was wrong and it could be judged. And then he hates learning because he's afraid of making mistakes, and that's not how learning works. When you're trying to learn something, it's crucial that you make mistakes. Without it, you can never learn anything. So when someone makes a mistake and the teacher says you're worthless because you have made a mistake, it makes the student's mind kind of imbue this idea that it's bad to make mistakes. So if learning consists in making mistakes, I would rather not learn. And here in most of the third world countries, the school system allows the teachers to hit students with cans. So if you make mistakes or come late to school, you can't expect them to act like workers, factory workers. And something else, the school environment, you're not allowed to talk to each other. You're not allowed to make even the hushed conversation with someone who's sitting next to you. That's not how children work. The teacher is pissed off, and he or she will say, "I'm busting my ass here teaching you worthless students, and you are here 10 or 11-year-olds following your instinct, talking to each other and interacting, which is your instinct and your nature, while you should be paying attention to me while I'm teaching you worthless information that you'll never use into your life. How dare you do what your instincts prompt you to do?" And most of the time it depends on the student too, because for me, I was slow kind of in some subjects, math or science. 4 years ago, if you told me to multiply this by this, even the most basic sums, I would have to write down on paper or use a calculator, because I wasn't good at math. If someone asked me on the fly any questions about science, I would have to think and search every nook and corner of my brain about the information that I'd memorized. So this way of education, where when I saw other students getting praised for memorizing facts and being good at maths, but I wasn't, I was seen as kind of a retard, that I wasn't able to learn those basic math sums like other students. But here's the thing, my strength didn't lie in that or memorizing historical facts. My strengths were in creativity. I love to create things. This is what I realized when I dropped out of high school. I sat down for so many long hours and introspecting and thinking about this. Why was I so slow in high school? Why didn't I learn math or science as the other students? And there might be students who are physically fit and they have broad shoulders because they've been favored genetically, and they might not be good for solving math sums or remembering historical facts, but they might become good workers in other industries. They might become good carpenters or plumbers, for example. But the school system doesn't encourage that. The school system judges a person's IQ or intellect by a piece of paper. How much can you memorize? The only reason people send their children to school is for that degree, because they think it guarantees success and having wealth in the future. If companies announce that they won't be needing people, their employees, to have a degree to be able to be hired in their company, then the whole system, the whole educational system would collapse. I mean, I'm not saying that we don't need engineers or doctors, because for those you obviously need degrees, but for most part, people would not go to school rather, because it's only the thought of getting a good degree, so they should be able to have a comfortable income in the future. And they're further propelled to send their children to school because they're brainwashed with this image of having the most material possession equaling success. And so they think that if their children grow up to become that kind of a person who has the most possessions of material things and have this high esteem of other people in society, then they are successful. And how can they make that happen so that their children become that successful person? By sending them to school, because it guarantees high income jobs. And that's not obviously the case. There are a lot of people, carpenters or people learning other trades, who earn more. They work for themselves and they are far more happy than people who have degrees and struggle to find jobs. But there are two things that are good about this educational system, which is you get to see other people and how they interact and make friends. That's how you learn to socialize. And the second thing is that it puts pressure on your brain to solve problems. By making you memorize or getting you to solve sums, you're putting a pressure on your brain that further ahead in life, and you're faced with a similar problem, you'll not fall into despair or go for someone else's help. You'll first try to see if you can solve the problem by yourself. And this is to some extent because most people who graduate from colleges are still not capable of solving their own problems, and that's why they fall into financial or emotional difficulties. Or maybe I'm wrong, because there are a lot of people who haven't got much formal education, who have become grew up to become great problem solvers and successful overall in life.